Hi everyone, this is William Ford from AtlantaMusicCritic.com. Today I'm conducting another of my emerging artist interviews. We'll be visiting again with Winfield B. Carson V, better known as Anthony Carson, about his recent graduation from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. We'll be also talking about some of the decisions he's made about the future directions of his composing career. I think you'll enjoy our conversation, and thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Gee, looks good.
Yeah, you
I
mean me or the screen?
all of it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, last time I saw you, you had the full beard.
Yeah, I know. Every once in a while, you can grow it out, but after a while, you got to shave it.
Yeah. I want you to see that I'm calling from the new international headquarters of Atlanta Music Critic through the miracles of Zoom.
Yeah, the miracle. Yeah, it looks like it. This is real. This is really. It's just messy. There's actually Brahms right here, but
Oh, it is. That's right.
Einstein's
Einstein.
more noticeable. Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm back home. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
You flew back, I assume?
Yes, I flew back last night, and I got back in uh, at 9 a.m. I took a red eye. I don't recommend it. So
I assume there weren't very many people on the flight, or am I wrong?
but it was like one person here, one seat's empty, and then another person there. So I mean, they had to have like a really big airplane, one that would like go overseas, coming from San Francisco to Chicago, and then Chicago
Sure.
to Pittsburgh. It was just like a small plane.
How was it out in San Francisco during the height of the lockdown and or whatever they called it out there?
Oh, it was. I didn't really like it. I mean, I thought I was all excited to go back for a little bit to clean my apartment out, and I thought at least some stuff would be opened. Absolutely nothing was open, so I was in my apartment alone for 10 days, and then like every once in a while, like if someone was from San Francisco, I knew was in town, then like they would come over, but that only like two people came. I just basically ordered food every night because I didn't think it was worth it to buy food because I was moving out of my apartment. So it was kind of it was kind of annoying. San Francisco got hit a little bit by the protests, but it wasn't as bad as San Jose and Oakland. But some people did protest. I mean, I think rightfully so, but thankfully there wasn't any damage wasn't done.
How did you spend your time when you were in quarantine, or that's not the right word, sheltering in place?
The first half when I was still in school, just I would finish editing a piece, my thesis piece that was 17 minutes. So that wasn't too much fun. And after that, other than that, I've just been kind of like sketching on new projects that I want to accomplish, and getting ready for next year, because next year it's a year program, but it's I'm going to be learning like different things like Logic and like some programming things. It's mainly to kind of get you ready for like the video game music industry and film composing industry. And it's a year-long program. It's called TAC, um, and at the San Francisco Conservatory. And yeah, they teach you all the fundamentals of that. And I was basically preparing myself for that.
So you're going to spend a year learning about gaming music and film music?
Fundamentally, like just how to write it, especially now in like a modern environment where you have stuff like Logic, Ableton, Max, like all this technological resources at your fingertips. I took a year-long class at Peabody called Intro to Computer Music, and that opened up some stuff, but it didn't dive deep enough into the subjects.
Did you actually compose something using digital
Oh
approaches?
yes, yes, I did. It was very acoustic, and somebody had to help me fine tune the MIDI and like make it sound like a professional mock-up in order to submit it into my portfolio. I wrote all the music, but I needed help with the production side of things.
Did you use an actual digital keyboard, or was it all done with virtual keyboard on the computer?
I think it's why it took me so long. I have Finale, which is a sheet music creating software, and it also has playback and it can make MIDI. So I implemented all the music into that, and then I extracted all the audio, all of the MIDI files, and then I put them into Logic, and then I edited everything there. But like I said, I had some assistance, a lot of assistance from one of the other techs because it's a whole other world that I'm not familiar with.
Did you like it?
I liked it. I just think I need to get just comfortable with it. I took another class over winter term where it was something similar, except we had to write like 2 minutes worth of music in a night, and then we had to like edit it and everything. You know, I got a little bit better of it in that class, but it still wasn't, you know, it wasn't up to par. Like if I were to send that into a professional studio, yeah, they'd be like, yeah, we can't hire you. So
What I'm trying to get at is, does it have interest for you in the long term? I mean, assuming that you overcame whatever technical deficits you might have, is it a kind of compositional approach that you think you would enjoy?
I've always wanted to write music for video games and the concert hall. It would be really good to have a video game composing job instead of a teaching job for me, because I just don't think I would be a good teacher. And writing music for video games is something that I've always wanted to do ever since I really started composing. I still obviously want to write music for the concert hall because you just have a lot more creative freedom as far as what you want to do. But I mean, it's just something that I've always wanted to do. Yeah.
It is something that appeals to you from you connect with the kind of music and the kind of approach that you have to use. I mean, that is attractive to you.
Yes, I would probably have to write like for, I guess, a specific genre video game, but obviously I don't want to narrow myself into a, you know, like peg myself into a hole. But I think an important part of me writing music for a video game in the long term is the story is a very important thing, I guess. And I think it's because, you know, a lot of the composers that I studied with had written operas, and, you know, a lot of them are still writing operas. And I think a lot of, like, you know, the storytelling aspect in my music kind of like rubbed off on me a little bit. I think it would be good if I could find like a game company that wrote, that made video games that were very story narrative driven. And there are a lot of video games like that, but there's also a lot of video games where, you know, it's just, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3. So it's.
I have to admit, I haven't got much beyond Angry Birds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Video, and it's probably a generational thing, but they've never really appealed to me very much. So I'm actually kind of surprised to hear you say that you would be interested in that, given the level of, and I don't mean this in a pejorative sort of way, but given the time that you've invested in writing traditional music for traditional orchestra rather than a digital orchestra, for example. Am I misreading that?
You're still writing music. A lot of big video game studios have their own orchestras, so there is always going to be that acoustic element that's needed. And a lot of the same techniques obviously apply to video, to really any form of, you know, video games and film, any form of any form of, you know, like musicals. So I mean, there's always that element. You know, I mean, I've always been around, composers that would write music for the, I guess, concert hall is the way I would put it. But I mean, I can still do that, but kind of the same thing. I mean, you know, music is.
I got you.
Music, you know?
Yeah, I'm probably drawing more of a difference than probably needs to be drawn. I interviewed a guy named Kevin MacLeod who does lots and lots and lots of music generation for web videos, intro music, and as they say, outro music. And he also writes music for relaxation. And Kevin's a fascinating guy. He's got a great sense of humor. And we were talking about how he develops music for relaxation. Essentially, he has 10 or so rules that he conveys to the DAW, what the music can and can't be. And pretty much the DAW goes ahead and kind of creates it. Of course, he has to go back and make some modifications if he feels any of the rules. Like you can't have anything really loud. You can't
Mhm.
have um, melodies that your head can latch on to. It has to keep moving. You obviously can't have a lot of percussion and so on.
Oh, yes.
It's easy to fall into the trap of having no regard for that kind of thing, because people do like it.
Mhm.
And of course, the only thing that really matters is whether people like it. The second thing that matters, of course, is whether you can sell it.
Yeah, definitely. There is a very operatic component to writing music for video games, and I think just as the same thing with film. I mean, video game music is very leitmotif driven, even with just like set from sound effects to main themes. And I mean, one thing that I've always been interested in, and San Francisco is a great place for this because basically everyone knows how to code. So like one thing that I've been working with is with one of my friends is making a video game, and then obviously I would write the music for it, and it's going to be very story driven. And I mean, a lot of this stuff I've been listening to a lot of Wagner lately, how to write leitmotifs and how like things function. Doesn't change.
Do you think that's a career path for you as opposed to, obviously, you said you don't feel comfortable with teaching. So that would be an attractive career path for you?
It would. I mean, I would always have a feeling to write music for the concert hall, but I mean, it's a much more, I think, stable career path. I love art, but it's annoying. Sometimes you have to look at the pocketbook every so often, which
Sure.
is just sad.
And my guess is when you have the kind of sheltering in place that we've had where people are unemployed, it's probably more likely that you'll stay employed if you're writing for video,
hmm
because you don't have to be in an office to do that. Even
Yeah,
as
it's
beautiful as our offices here are at Atlanta Music Critic, I mean, sometimes you could work from home. Now, you got your master's degree. Are you done with the academic part of it, or is this additional year that you've been talking about, is that still part of your master's program?
I have my master's now, so
Yeah.
you call me Master Carson or
All right, I'll do that.
whatever. But I have my master's now and in music composition. And this other year is it's basically all music. It's really nothing in the curriculum is really anything other than like learning a particular like program or writing music. It's all just writing music, which is good. I wish it was all the programs were like this, but sometimes writing papers are important. The composition studios are literally on the top floor, and then the tax studios are in the basement. So it's different. I mean, you have to learn different things, and it's good though in a way because a lot of composition students are doing you know they're getting the masters, and then they're doing the PSD program, which is 1 year long, and it's funny. Like there really isn't a lot of correspondence between the composition department and the TAC department. It's still a completely different program with a completely different chair, and sometimes that can be hard, but they're really nice, so it all works itself out.
When you're finished with it, do you have some kind of certificate or?
Yeah, you would have a performance certificate.
I see. Do you plan on any further study in traditional composition, for example? In other words, a doctorate or something like that, or? Is this it for you?
Right, right now, no, I think I have to. I think that'll be it. I mean, who knows what the future will hold? I mean, maybe I'll go back to get a doctorate, but I'm pretty done with sitting in a classroom. You know, I mean, I've been thinking about it. I've been sitting in a classroom since like, since I was like, I think 3. So I think now it's time to, I think, move on now. But I mean, I think I need to have a break. And, you know, I think a lot of composers, they take anywhere between like a year or like maybe 5 years, depending on what kind of career they have before they go back and get their doctorate. So, I mean, who knows if I'll go back and get it, but I think I need to go into the field right now. But as far as writing music for the concert hall, I mean, I finished a 17-minute piece, which is the longest, you know, piece I've written so far. And, you know, I still have a lot of contacts at the school. So, I mean, I'll always have performers. So it's definitely something that I want to keep up.
What was your 17-minute piece about?
It was a,
Like,
it was the thesis piece that I had to write to get my master's. And it's called Struggle and Fulfillment of Prayer. And it's, you know, it talks about essentially like, you know, how hard it is to begin praying and how, you know, and then the fulfillment that you have afterwards. It's for Piro Ensemble. So I need to assemble the performers, and it's for, you know, it's for soprano as well. So I need to assemble them and have.
so this is kind of it for the traditional academic career for you then?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Uh,
obviously you can, this is not a commitment. You can revisit that
yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
the whole thing
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
But I get, I know when I was nearing the end of my academic career, it couldn't come fast enough.
That's exactly how I am, which I'm really happy the way this program's structured. It's not a master's program, and they kind of know that, so they just teach you the stuff that I guess you want to learn because you only have a year.
As you look back on your master's degree, what was the best part of it?
I mean, obviously studying with David Gardner was really great. I mean, it was a big it was a big switch at the beginning. And my first year, I feel like I kind of had a hard time, even though I think I did write, you know, some. I was pretty happy with the way the choral piece turned out. So you know, but it was still, I guess, difficult getting used to a different professor. But then, you know, the second year, I learned a lot more. Definitely working with David Gardner, and the other thing would be, you know, I guess meeting I know a singer who I've collaborated with on a number of projects at the conservatory, Catherine Rupp. And yeah, those are really like, you know, the two things I think that really help, you know, it helped me. It developed me as a composer, and I learned a lot.
It is an exciting time. I'm really intrigued though with where you're going to take all of this because, as I said earlier, I'm really surprised. But it's a
Yeah,
great thing. I mean, it's a great thing. I commend you for that.
like I said, having this stability is a lot. One of the main things that made me want to write music and really get into music at all was playing The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And, you know, I was just fascinated by the music, and I guess just how the music worked with the video game. And then, you know, once you begin to study more, you realize that, you know, Koji Kondo was like, you know, heavily influenced by Ravel, and then you realize like, you know, Wagner's music, and you realize like how much it all like just meshed with the video game. And the reason why I liked it so much was because of essentially all these features that, you know, that Western music, you know, created. You know.
I do know when symphonies play like The Legend of Zelda, it sure fills seats for them.
Yeah, it does.
I don't actually understand the mechanics of creating that music because uh, the player obviously affects the story.
Mhm.
And if the story changes because of something the player did, does the music change too? Do you know what I'm
Sometimes,
saying?
Yeah, it depends on the game. I mean, if the story's like already laid out, if there's a specific path that the player has to take, then you know when certain things are going to switch, like that are going to switch, and usually like the game director will tell you like different things that he wants in the music. But I think the one thing that's really important is you really have to master rondo form, and in order to really write a solid video game score, I'm noticing like it has to be. You almost have to work with the repetition because I mean it's going to loop. You have to keep that in mind. So I mean, if it's going to loop, you have to have like thematic material that develops in a certain way and takes advantage of repetition. So then when it goes back again, the player doesn't get sick of it. So that's always something you have to think about.
Do you get like handed a tree of options within the story and then you write according to that? Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know exactly how that works because I haven't worked in the industry long enough at all. Like I'm just kind of starting, but I would assume that's how some of it is. I mean, like I said, there's like different way some games operate. Some games the storyline is you can't change it at all. But yeah, more and more video games where like the story changes on how it unfolds. You are working really close with the directors, so getting the vision down of the video game is obviously something that it can be challenging sometimes, especially like now with like VR is becoming like more and more of a big thing, and they're really trying to figure out a way to like start incorporating it. And in San Francisco, like I would remember like going to these warehouses of like basically people my age, basically trying to like messing around with VR, and like they were trying to figure out like a way to successfully like create something. When I was in Los Angeles at Game SoundCon, basically like 4 or 5 classes within the course of 2 days that just talked about this stuff and how it relates to audio design. And I remember it said like you have to have like a certain skill set already in order to understand what's going on. So I mean, I didn't even really bother going to that because I knew I was just going to be blown out of the water. I still don't want to leave the concert hall behind because there's so many opportunities there.
Sure. No, I get that. Diversity in your education is a good thing and I
Yeah.
guess, gives you a leg up on marketability.
Composition field's competitive, and I think, like you said, just the more diverse your skill set is, the more likely you're to get hired.
I interviewed Michael Kurth, who's a bass player with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, but he's also a composer. And the symphony issued a CD of only his music,
Oh, nice.
which is incredible. And Michael's a fascinating, brilliant guy. And we were talking about the reaction, at least some of the reviews to the music. And one reviewer is basically saying that the music didn't do anything for him, that it didn't say anything new, it didn't go in directions that hadn't been trodden before. And I always find those reviews kind of interesting because I don't think every piece of music has to do that. You have to find music that, in fact, people like and are willing to listen to it over and over again. A one off performance of a piece of music doesn't do you a lot of good. As a
Mm,
composer, you hope
true.
that it has some legs.
Having a piece that really resonates with people is important, and I mean, but at the same time, I mean, critics didn't like Beethoven's music when it first came out, and now it's.
Sure.
But I think then again, Beethoven. It took years before people actually started to understand like the Grosse Fugue. Learning music is a process. So I mean, you'll like some music, when you're a certain age that you didn't like at this age. So it's.
Of course. Of course.
I've always liked Beethoven's music though, but this is my opinion.
Well, it's very difficult for me to write a review of a new piece
Mm,
because it's difficult to say how well it was played because you have no basis on which to determine. the quality of the playing. You have no basis on which to determine whether it was interpreted well. You end up saying, well, this sounded like somebody or other, and that sounded like somebody or other. Then it makes it sound like it was totally derivative. It's a really hard thing to do, but the most important thing is, do I want to hear it again?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for myself as a reviewer, the most important thing is to be able to say, yeah, I'd like to hear that again.
It's really complicated at my age too to really develop a style. I guess like my great grandfather said, like who you are and like what you represent. Because it kind of is. It comes down to that, like, you know, what do you want your music to be? What do you want it to represent? And like if you don't have a clear construct of that, it doesn't come off at all. So it's always, then of course, like, you know, you can do your own thing. Obviously, I'm not saying you can't do that, but you know, you kind of do have to. I'm starting to really learn this. Like you kind of do have to artistically represent something. It just doesn't seem like you can't.
Right. There is room for all of that. The question is, can you find enough room for yourself in order to make money? Because ultimately, I mean, really, as much as you want to create art, money does matter.
Mm-hmm. It does. It definitely is. I mean, yeah, a complicated balance.
And that's to say, I think you're being very smart in your choice. I think it's a very smart move.
Thanks.
Because I think you have the qualifications on the more traditional side, but you also have the practicality of being able to employ that in something that will actually employ you. So that's good.
Thanks.
So that's a real important thing. Art for art's sake is a good thing, but it doesn't pay the rent.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations.
Thanks. Art for art's sake. It's a big gamble, obviously. And like, if you really have an idea that I think is going to be successful, I totally, you know, I totally support the idea if you want to, you know, really just spend your time and work on that. But I guess you really have to make sure that not really that people are going to like it, but that it comes off the way that you articulate it. And a lot of times, a lot of great art's been created just because they're like, I have this idea, I'm going to stick with it, and you know, the world's just going to have to wait for me.
Right.
And then it works out. But if it doesn't work out, then you know, it's yeah.
Do your family members have any resonance with any of this stuff? Do they get these kind of issues?
They my dad said he thinks, like he says, he's like, I think I understand your industry. It's all about contacts. And I'm like, yeah, it really kind of is. But like, obviously he doesn't understand like the musical aspect of it. But I think he kind of understands and like sees how like you get employed. I mean, there are other industries that function the same way, I guess, where it's just like, where it's just all about contacts. He doesn't understand like the musical aspect of things.
So is it good to be back home?
It is. It's good to be back. Like I said, it'll be really interesting to see how San Francisco recovers from all this. And like, I was kind of starting to get a bad feeling. So I was pretty happy I left when I did.
Right.
So my stuff is in storage down there, but I mean, the likelihood that somebody's going to like break through like a steel garage door to get my stuff is pretty, I guess, unlikely.
Well, let's just hope you don't have anything of huge value.
Yeah, it's basically just closed. So they'd be stealing like, I guess, like, you know, in tuckets like this. They would be a fortune. Yeah.
Yeah. Great following up with you. It's great. I'm really
talking to you.
I'm really excited for your doing this. It'll be interesting to talk to you next year also, because you'll know a lot more, and then you can educate me on actually how it works.
If we have another, in November, October, I'll be able to. I'll either be very stressed out or very, you know, happy.
Oh yeah.
Depending on how everything is.
Yeah. I'll look forward to learning more about that.
Thanks. Look forward to talking to you again.
Plan later on in the year, because I want to hear what's going on. Take care.
Take care.